Welcome to Leaders and Learners. My name is Tanya McKenzie, and you can find me at the intersection of public relations and leadership. Join us as we talk to organizational leaders, elected officials, experts, authors, artists, and personalities, sharing their stories, talking about how they got to where they are and how they continue to learn and lead the way. So without further ado, let's get into it. What's up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Leaders and Learners, where we all know that the best leaders are lifetime learners. Today, I have someone that's going to help you understand probably a lot of complexities about leadership. I absolutely adore this man because there's not too many people that understand how communications and leadership actually blend, right? A lot of people feel like, they want media attention, they want to be seen as the expert in their field, but don't really recognize how leadership and the way that you lead actually plays a part into that. It's very authentic, the way that when you want media coverage and you want people to see you as an authority in your industry, you have to stand out. And doing what everyone else does is not the win. Okay. Not only that, but being able to be someone that is productive, someone that can get others to do things not based on your title, but based on your behavior and your actions, how you allow for your organization to become successful and stand out. All of those things are important. Football season just ended. I know many times people look at coaches and they wonder, how do you get other grown men, alpha males, to follow in someone else's footsteps, to follow someone else's instructions, to actually let someone tell them what to do? Like, what is that about someone that can demand, without even saying it, demand others follow his instructions or his lead, follows his lead? So I'm going to introduce you to someone that I've grown to admire. I watch him, I read his stuff, I stalk his website, I stalk him on Twitter. You probably should too if you're trying to be better at anything that you're doing in life. My friend, Ken Jacobs, how are you?
It is so nice there's so much I want to respond to in that, but I picked three, and I'm a big believer in the power of threes.
Mm,
So, what were my three? One, as you go through life, as a certain point in life, you you meet people, and you can meet them once, and it can be virtual, and you say, "Oh my God, we should have been besties before. Well, we didn't know each other, but now we're besties." And you may only speak once every few years, which is a shame. You should speak more to those people, but you are definitely one of those people in my life. I think we just felt that the first time we spoke, and it's such a joy. And I want to encourage everyone to find people like that. Second of all, I watched your intro very carefully. I hadn't noticed before. There's a photo with you with, I think her nickname is Auntie Maxine,
yes,
the
sir.
congresswoman. Like, how amazing. I want to just talk to you about that. And the third thing is, because you talked about leadership and communications, and people who know me know that before I became a coach and consultant and trainer, I was in the PR agency business. But I want to make very clear, just so you don't ask me any questions about publicity or media relations today, that when I would write releases, it was on an IBM Selectric. Yes, I am that old. So I just want to level set for everyone that my knowledge of leadership, and I think communications in general, is much more up to speed than my knowledge of PR, publicity, and media relations, just so you know.
Yep, I absolutely remember you saying, that's not really what I do. But this is the thing, because you are so good at leadership, every industry can look to you for assistance. Any industry can look to you for assistance. And why am I not producing as much as I should? Why can't I get this group of people to be as productive as possible? In our industry in communications, though, one of the things that I think people fall really short of is understanding how much stuff is actually under the communications umbrella,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mhm.
and being able to tap into those things, even within different industries, to get things done. How you communicate with others in your organization is hugely important. So, really quick, let the people know a little bit more about your background for those that miss Ken the first time that he was here, where you're from, and then how you kind of got
Sure.
into this field.
So I was in the consumer PR agency business in New York City, right out of college. I grew into management and leadership quickly, young. That had some advantages and some disadvantages. And after 25 plus years in the business at various agencies, it just wasn't working for me. And I'm always very honest. And I don't know if this came up last time, but each of my agency leadership assignments was of shorter and shorter duration. It wasn't always my choice. Well, there's some honesty for you. And so I realized I had to figure out me again and what I was meant to do and what I was meant to bring and to, live a life of abundance. You got to make some money, right? So I realized that I wanted to do consulting, coaching, and training primarily, but not exclusively, for the PR, advertising, marketing, comms world, and primarily, but not exclusively, for agencies. Now, why is that? Well, part of it is PR agency marketing people are great. Part of it is it's the field in which I grew up. So I was kind of known. I don't think I was known as I'm known now, but I had a network to work with. Um, to go back to something very important that you said, the reality is that leadership is leadership is leadership. And I could coach mathematicians and engineers and, oh gosh, nuclear scientists. I mean, when you're a trained certified coach, and if you're good at it, you can coach anyone. I've just chosen to have a niche. I go outside of it when someone asks, but that's how that all, kind of came about. But yeah, there are so many similarities between effective leadership and effective communications. And you can't be a leader if you're not, you can't be an effective leader. Plenty of leaders out there. They've got the title, but I don't think you can be an effective leader unless you're an effective communicator.
Mm.
That said, since I like to put things in the positive, I'm a big believer in positive mindset, and the power of that is that when you become an effective communicator, you can be a much more effective leader. I like to end it on a, more upbeat note.
Ended on a high note. My motto for this year, for 2023, is fight coward culture. Mostly because I feel like when people are bad leaders or they are not communicating very well, there's a level of cowardice that goes with that. They're afraid of something. They're afraid of the reaction. They're afraid of maybe what that level of truth and honesty might bring upon them that they're not ready to deal with. And they're afraid to lead. They're just afraid to lead, whether it's fear of failure or fear of criticism. I'm not exactly sure. I haven't gotten all the way down to it, but fighting coward culture, racism is a part of that,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Because there's a
yeah.
fear that is going on, even though they won't say it. There's a fear in others that is keeping you from being accepting and would, be more derogatory towards someone. There's just a lot of fear going on right now. People hiding behind keyboards instead of just being authentic to who they are. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that. What is cowardice to you, and how does it actually play into leadership?
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure if it's cowardice per se, though you've brought up some great examples of that, in society. That said, I'm always shocked how much fear, uncertainty, insecurity, whatever you want to call it, there is among executives in PR, but I'm sure in all areas, all industries. And I always say fear is not a good business strategy. It's not a good leadership strategy. It's not a good life strategy. And this is really crazy. you brought this up. Now, see, the universe makes no mistakes. We know this, right? I just recorded I do some solo videos. I just recorded my March solo video. The theme was March comes in like a lion, it goes out like a lamb, but don't go out like a lamb. Embrace your lion, embrace your courage, embrace
Mm,
your bravery. So, isn't
mm.
that crazy? That was literally an hour ago. An hour ago. No mistakes. But anyway, um, I'm just shocked at the level of your people who say, I could never say that to my client. I would never say that to my business partner. I never say it to my team, to my spouse. Like, and I'm like, what's the worst that can happen? They're not going to fire you, quit, or divorce you for speaking your truth. They're just not. And, you know, those kind of discussions are always worse in our minds, but when we have them, they're very freeing. They're very freeing. And last quick thought on that, and then we'll bounce back maybe, is that followers follow courageous and brave leaders.
Mm.
Followers follow courageous and brave leaders. It is like a magnet. Courageous leaders are attractive. And I don't just mean better looking like us. I'm talking about they literally attract followers. And your followers, their antenna is on high for fear because they don't want it. So something's happening chemically, but they desire, they need your courage. And if you can connect with your inner courage and share it with your followers, they will absolutely follow you.
Yeah, I want to take it out of comms even and
Yeah.
PR
Oh,
and take it a little deeper into relationships because communications PR is a it's very relationship based. This, applies there too. But in any relationship, your relationship with your spouse, your relationship with your employees, government relationships with their constituents,
mhm.
the it just feels like fear is keeping people from connecting better, from being more effective. Now we're in a time where it seems that people are a lot more selfish than selfless, even when they're in positions where they pledged to be
Mhm.
selfless. What are some of the fixes? Because I always believe that true leadership is about finding solutions and delivering
Yeah.
results. From
Yeah.
your perspective, what are some of the solutions to some of the social norms that are ailing us right now and these relationship breakdowns that should actually be continuously being built up?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think, hmm. Let me start on the leadership side, then we can go into that, I think, in that, you know, as a leader, at a certain point, you realize the fear is not helping you. And you start to think about what is my mission as a leader? What is my role as a leader? And if you really want to achieve that, and I don't care if you only have a department of one, but if you want one inspired, enthusiastic follower, not just a team member, but a follower, you've got to go deep, figure out what's driving the fear, and replace it with courage. So, I think that's one part, and that's a sacrifice. It's tough to face our fear, to walk through it, to manage through it. But leadership to me is you have to make sacrifices. And at a certain point, you say, I'm not being an effective leader if I'm living in my fear. I'll do what I need to do to be a courageous leader, even if I only have a team of one or 100. That doesn't matter. I want to address though the question you raised with relationships. And as you asked it, what came up for me is we have to remember relationships are how we relate to one another, right? It's how we relate to one another. So we both get to choose, including groups, we get to choose what we want that relationship to look and feel like. So we have a vote. But I think we also have a role and a responsibility. And someone's got to be the big person in the room and say, I'm going to step in first. I'm going to start to improve this relationship. And the last thought here, I don't know if it's more society, it's more about leadership in the organization than society, maybe. We're so driven by what we have to do, what we're supposed to do, right? But think about it. Most of us don't like to do what we have to do, right? Like homework. Who wanted to do homework, right?
Clean the kitchen. Who wants to
Yeah,
clean?
yeah. So what you, but if you can replace have to and want and have to and must and need to do with want to do, what is it you want to do? And you'll immediately start to live there. And the next thought about that, or the last thought about that, is we're so focused on all of that, we forget to focus on how good it feels when
Mm.
we're courageous, how good it feels when we walk through our fear, how good it feels when we empower a follower to, like, achieve something they didn't know they could achieve. Feeling and wanting is such a strong motivator for change. And I think we've gotten away from that. So I encourage everyone, even if you're on this journey, to be better at what you're doing as a PR person, communications scientist, instead of focusing on what you have to do, think about what you want to do and how good did it feel when you did it before. And you'll literally feel it. You'll feel it in your heart and say, what will it feel like when I achieve this? It is much more motivating and inspiring, and it will get you there much more quickly. But not enough people do. Look, this country, with all its messed up history, but part of it was, the second group were Puritans. They were like, you can't have fun, you can't celebrate Christmas, you can't dance. I mean, all these things. And I think there is something in our culture of no pain, no gain, and you've got to sweat, and hard work is its own reward, and all that stuff. I think for many of us that's still woven into some of our cultural DNA, and it doesn't help. And if you think, okay, so if you think you might be suffering from this puritanical whatever, gee, just go to France, Italy, or Spain for a week, and you see how they enjoy life. Yeah, they work, but then at 5 o'clock they're having Aperol spritz out on the
Mm.
plaza or whatever. They savor life, and I truly, so that's a societal thing. I really think we can benefit from that. I was talking to someone on one of our vacations, I think in southern Spain or France, whatever. And I said, "Do you stop
What
for
a
lunch?"
horrible life in
Oh,
Southern.
yeah, yeah. Do you stop for lunch every day? I'm like, of course. Do you have lunch at your desk? She looked at me like, are you out of your mind? And then I said, and do you go to lunch with your coworkers? And again, she like, no, I go with my sister, I go with my mama, I go with my friend. Like, there's this thing about savoring. And, I think when she gets back to the office, her brain is in a much better place than most of us are when we've, for example, worked through lunch and just, anyway.
I like that.
Mm.
I just have to start taking lunch again with
Yeah. Oh,
friends.
yeah.
Lunch with
Yeah.
friends. Novel idea. I love it.
You'll
So
both get so much from it, I think.
when people call you, because I can call you and just talk to you, but
Mm.
when people call you to help them, help their business, what is usually the biggest issue that they call with? And where do you start? Where do you even start with some of this stuff?
Well, it's really different. Sometimes it's, from an agency, I'm not getting enough business. Sometimes it's I'm not making enough money. I work so hard, I'm not making enough profit. What am I doing wrong? Sometimes it's client stuff, but it nearly almost gets down to leadership, that they realize their people aren't inspired. They work there, they come in and do work, but they're not following. So it's kind of transactional, but it's not transformative, right? It's not transformative. And I don't know if this answers your question, but often when they call about a consulting thing, finance, profit, biz dev. I have a few others. Um, but if I start to sense there's a leadership thing going on, or there's fear or lack of confidence, and there have been times they say, I don't know what I need to do first. Hire you as a leadership coach or a business consultant. I will always say, let's do the leadership coaching first. Let's start with you first.
Mm.
Because if you can figure out how to lead more effectively yourself and others, the other stuff will start to get better, whether you hire me or not. You know, you're trying to get people to put their timesheets in on time. You're trying to get them to be compliant with anything. You're trying to get them to help on business development or better client service. Instead of going it alone, if you're a better leader, they will be more in the boat with you, helping you. So I always say, look, I'd love to do it all. Right? I'd love to be consulting and bring me in to do training while we do, but that, good help doesn't come cheap. So, but I always,
Ken, have you ever
I'm sorry,
told anybody, even if you were thinking it, like, dude, you suck? Like,
no,
what?
no,
What what
no,
do you communicate to them when you feel that way?
yeah, yeah,
What is the verbiage? What is the thing that you say to someone to get them to realize, dude, you're going about this all
yeah.
wrong?
So I'll give you a two-part answer. That should be my new brand. Ken, two-part answer, 3 points, because he never just answers one thing. I'm going to embrace that in my branding. But I can't ever think that, because if you're judging someone, you can't coach them. So you have to decide, am I going to coach them or judge them all the time? So I've worked very hard at removing judgment, I hope. Yeah, I know I have. Um, judging people and quickly. But so I will tell you one example, no names. At the conference where I always present, I presented, I think, on BizDev. I don't remember for sure. And an agency owner came up to me and said, I want to talk about BizDev. And I don't know why. I just had this feeling there were issues of lack of security, lack of confidence, etc. So when we started talking, I didn't have, at that point, have the guts to say, I don't think it's BizDev is the issue. I think the issue is leadership or fear. Now I go there much more quickly. So we did a biz dev engagement and she was getting good results. And then she kind of flatlined. Why? Because to do biz dev effectively takes guts, takes asking for referrals, asking for a meeting, asking, I want feedback on the proposal. It's not for the faint of heart. So she kind of flatlined and was frustrated. And finally I said, can I share something? By the way, if you want to share something with someone, always ask first, because they almost always say yes. It does open up their brain. But if they say no, don't waste your breath. We all waste a lot of time giving our opinions to people who don't want it. Anyway, but I digress. Mr. Digression, that's my other brand. Anyway, so I said, I sensed when I met you, there were issues of confidence, lack of security, fear. Is that accurate? And, she paused for a minute, looked a little emotional, and said yes, and described her father was a salesman, and business went up and business went down. And she remembered the fear of the down months, but also she was just afraid that if it wouldn't work, she would tap into, and this is no insult against any used car dealers out there, though you're all charging way too much, okay? But anyway, she was afraid she would bring that. So I said, thanks for your candor. This is all coachable. We went into a leadership coaching engagement, like 3, 4, 5, 6 months.
Mm.
And then when she was ready, we jumped back into the biz dev and she killed it. She exceeded her stretch goals for at least 2 years. And that's not any magic I brought her. I don't claim credit, but I think it's because we finally dealt with that fear and embraced how good she was, that it allowed her to go back into this. So that's a very long, I don't, did I answer the question? It's what
Yeah,
it made me think of.
it
And
did.
so the lesson I took from that is that I've got to be brave. And if I feel the issue is a leadership issue, then I've got to say, look, I can help you with these other things at any time. I'd like you to let's explore this a bit.
I like that. I like what you said earlier. Say that again for the audience.
Which one?
You ask someone before you give your
Yes,
unsolicited
yes, yes,
opinion.
yes. So I'm a storyteller. Can I tell a story if I keep it
Absolutely.
brief? All right. I had a
Absolutely.
very dear friend. She's no longer with us. She was a great media trainer, very supportive, helped me get just a supporter. And she wrote a blog post that something about it I didn't like. I just didn't like. I don't know why. Who cares? But I didn't like it. She happened to call me that day. So we start chatting, and I said, Joyce, um, can I share some feedback about today's blog post? And she paused. She really listened. She stopped for a moment and said, I loved that blog post. So thank you, but no. And, kudos to her to own that. And thank goodness I had asked, because what if I had just, don't tell someone their baby's ugly. It's like not a good strategy. If they say, what do you think of my baby's looks? I guess you could say, well, they probably sing really well, or so. I mean, you never, you can, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. We should know that baby's beautiful. I think the one case where you can fudge it a bit is if someone asks how their child is. I think you should be. But anyway, but I'm so
It's so
glad
funny.
I asked her, and I would have wasted my breath, and it could have in some way dinged the relationship just a bit. So that's a tremendous lesson I've learned. Always ask. 98% of the time, I'm making up that statistic, they will say yes, and something opens in their brain and they're really ready to listen. But if they ever say no, that's good. We can move on from there.
I like it. So the last time we were together, you had just released an ebook. What have you been up to since then?
Wow. Let's see. Getting through the pandemic. Everybody under lockdown. My wife making sourdough bread every day, gaining 17 pounds. I call it my COVID 17, but I'm happy to share I've since lost 27 or 32. So
Mm.
so since I've been here, I'm older, wiser, and thinner. So that's good. Oh no, because I spoke to you before I'm glad I didn't speak to you during June of that year. You would have been like, oh, you're Ken's heavy brother. Can I speak to Ken, please? No, this is me. This is me with sourdough bread, and stress eating and whatever. So we got through the lockdown. I'm still not doing my full a lot of training in person, a lot of trips to New York and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I well, I've got new initials now. I'm PCC now
I
as
saw
opposed to
that.
ACC. So that's up for renewal. So now I've got to take all the CCEs, the credits that I should have been taking the last 2 years. So I'm
Mhm.
going to be deep in professional development the next quarter. But no, I think the biggest change is the biggest evolution of the business is a lot more executive coaching. I mean, I'm still doing consulting and it's thriving. I think I'm doing less training because a lot of that training was in person. Obviously, I replaced a lot of in-person training with virtual, and I loved it. I loved the virtual training. There is an energy you get from in person, but it also means schlepping on the train to New York or getting on a plane or all those other things. So more professional development, more expanded coaching credentials, and I would say I am loving the business even more than when we spoke. I really appreciate that I made the switch back in 2007, which seems like a lifetime ago. It's not. It just seems like it. So I think I know I'm happier, more fulfilled. And the other thing I've learned is, yeah, I think I really feel like I've walked through any remaining fear. If I'm being honest, boy, this is like the Ken Honesty show. It's another part of my brand. But, I think over the years, and even when we spoke, I had some issues with, can I sustain this? What if it dries up? What about the lockdown? What about whatever? And actually, during the lockdown, I had some coaching clients whose coaching engagements were ending, and we were about to say, do you want to renew and everything else? They were like, oh my God, I don't even know if I can hold on to my home. So I actually did a lot of complimentary coaching that April, that May, that June of 2020. Um, because we coaches say coaching is not what we do, it's who we are.
Yes.
And so if I would coach fewer people just because they couldn't pay me, or their companies couldn't pay me, that would have been insane. Why would I lessen that I could bring good stuff to people
Right.
and empower them just because that those 3 months they couldn't write a check? And every time you coach, you get better at it. I hope you get better at it. I feel like I do. Why would I deny that to myself just because right now nobody has any money?
Right.
That would have been crazy.
It was a whole thing.
We've come back, and I've said, 20 was tough, 21 was tough, 22 still had challenges, but for 23, I've set very ambitious growth goals. Very ambitious growth goals. And
I
if
love
there are any entrepreneurs out there watching us, when you set your goals for 2023, if you haven't yet, don't just base it on 22 or 21 or 20. Don't base it on odd years or uncertain years, however we want to call those years. Like, what did you make in 2019? I mean, unless you did better in 2021 and 22. But if your last big year was 19, set your growth against 19.
Yeah.
Base it on your last good year,
Yes.
and that will stretch you into greater performance and greater abundance.
I think that's great advice. We always love having you here. What do you have coming up? How do the people keep in touch with you, stay connected to you? Connection is huge.
Lots of
And
lots
find
of
you if they need
ways.
you.
You can find me on LinkedIn. Just look for, am I Ken Jacobs or Kenneth Jacobs? But look for the initials after the name. Yeah, it's Ken Jacobs, PCC, CPC. There I am. Hi, there's my initials. So there are a lot of Ken Jacobs on LinkedIn. I'm linked into a lot of them, number one. You can always email me, KEN at JACOBSCOMM.com. And I'm on Twitter a little less than in the past. That's another story. But I've been told, a very good video podcast, which maybe had just started when you and I don't know if we had it.
Mhm.
Did we have it? We're called Taking the Lead, because that is our brand. And we get to interview some of the most respected and admired leaders. Most are from the world of PR, but their leadership lessons, to a point you raised earlier, go well beyond anything in PR, because leadership is leadership is leadership. And well, I'm amazed they spend time with me. I mean, some of them are global CEOs. Like, what's that about? But I'm open. I'll take it in. I'll enjoy it. But I find they are so generous and share knowledge and are so humble and vulnerable. I'm just amazed at that. So you can find that on my website or the Jacobs Consulting and Executive Coaching YouTube channel. And, link in with me. I'm open to connecting. Let me know how you found me on Sand and Shores and through Tanya. And, if anybody from listening to this, or watching this, I should say, is thinking, maybe I could do better with my leadership. Maybe I'm having challenges, or maybe I can take it up a notch. I am very happy to offer a complimentary hour. Let's explore what it might take to empower you to greater leadership. I'm always willing to offer that if someone reaches out. You don't have to be in PR by any means. You can even be a leader in training. Love working with leaders in training. And happy to offer that. No obligation, complimentary. And I always say you may be surprised at what you can do with an hour of solid coaching.
Absolutely. Well, I know what we just did in 30 minutes, and it's absolutely incredible. And I always love having you. Looking forward to the next time, because there will be a next time. I don't
There
know if it'll
will
be
be. There
on the
will
pod
be.
or it might just be me and you, but I
That would,
always,
we really should. I mean, that's
always
one of
need a
the,
little Ken in my life.
yeah,
So,
one of the themes from today is even a virtual half hour, use Zoom. I don't know. I find in this life, after I reached a certain age, which coincided when I launched the business, that we are magnetically attracted to people on the journey, whatever that means. Are they in coaching? Are they in therapy? Are they just mindfulness, meditation? If they're doing the work, they want to do the work. Find every opportunity to connect with them and share that energy and help and grow one another and empower one another. So we should do that. We're making a public commitment that we will do that in the next 30 days.
yes, in the
I
next.
put a deadline on it. Put a deadline on it.
I like it. Well, thank you so much for being here. All of the information that you gave us, it'll be in the captions of this pod. And we, sir, will see you soon.
I hope so. Thank you so much for the. I feel energized. Thank
All
you.
right. Have a good one.
You too.
So, listen, guys, we said it before and we'll say it again. It takes a level of courage to say, let me even explore if I can do better. Because you might be doing all right, things might be going okay. But be honest with yourself. Could you be doing better at what you do? Could the people around you be doing better based on who you are in the situation? Don't be afraid, don't be a coward of the result because you don't want to have to do the work. It takes a level of courage to say, oh no, let me see if there's something more that I can be doing, something more than I can bring to this picture, something more than I can do to improve or grow this company, something better I can do in my marriage, in my relationship, to lead my household to be more productive or even happier. Those are all conversations that you can have with someone that has an objective opinion, but really has an in depth understanding of leadership, your ability to lead and have an impact on whatever situation that you're in. So I just encourage you today to be courageous, reach out. Ken already said he'd hook you up for an hour. What's an hour of your life if it can improve your bottom line, if it can improve your relationships, if it can improve your work relationships, organizations that you're a part of? You never know what you can do and how you can be impactful in the rooms that you are in. So I encourage you today to do that. I hope you took something awesome out of the day. Make sure you tap in, connect with Ken, stay connected, always connect with us. And I will see you back here with another edition of Leaders and Learners real soon. Hey, thanks for showing up to the podcast where we all know that the best leaders are lifetime learners. When you get a sec, take a moment, leave a comment. What you think about today's episode? And share it with someone that you know could use the gems that were dropped today. Follow and subscribe. You don't want to miss who's coming up next. You never know who could show up here and what they could say. For your professional needs, marketing, PR, communications, and leadership, make sure you follow us on all social media platforms at Sand and Shores or hit us up at sandandshores.com. Again, thanks so much for showing up. We appreciate you and we'll see you soon.